Welcome if you're watching us online. Thank you for listening to us this morning, and I hope this will be helpful to you. We're going to be looking at a new series, and we're going to be looking at a verse which we're going to be using each week, which is from Hebrews chapter 4 verse 16. And it says, "Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." Well done, Susan. You can leave that up, Susan, actually, for a while. Thank you. We're going to be looking at this verse every week and looking at different aspects of the verse and what it means to us. But Jack has very helpfully put this series together, and I'm indebted to Jack because I'm supposed to have been doing the first one today, but actually I asked whether I could swap to doing the second one. So I hope Jack will be following on with the second of these next week. There's a road map. I don't think, Susan, you've got this one, but there's a road map. It's a picture here. And Jack has got he had a picture of a sort of a treasure sketch, you know, a map with an arrow leading through 4 different stages. Don't worry about that, Susan, if you haven't actually got it, but Jack will be referring to that next week. There you go. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so different stages on this treasure map to get to the treasure, and we're going to be looking at the 4 stages in the next 4 weeks. What I'm going to be talking about today is living in our identity. Living in our identity. And I think this is something very, very important. You can take that map down now, Susan, thank you. Something very important for us to consider at the moment. I had a sense on Thursday this week. I was at a retreat conference, and I had a sense that actually we are living in times of tremendous anxiety. Now, we've talked about this recently. We know COVID's happened, etc. But the enormity of what we're living in, I think, is impacting us in ways that we perhaps don't realise. So, for example, we've come through the biggest lockdown that we've ever had as a country. We've come through a time where church had to be closed down. Churches across the land were closed down for the best part of a year to 18 months. We've never experienced that before. We would never have thought it possible. So not only have we had COVID hitting us, we've had lockdown. Only the other day we had petrol shortages because we haven't got enough tanker drivers. And you saw the queues at petrol stations. You might have been part of that. They're talking about Christmas, about it being a real challenge. There may not be pigs in blankets this Christmas. But getting more serious, you know, they're talking about there may not be enough turkeys because there's not enough workers to actually pluck the turkeys. Now, okay, you think that's fun, but it's in our anxiety. COVID, lockdowns, petrol shortages. This time previous 18 months ago, toilet roll shortages. All those things are hitting us. We then hear on the news every day that unless we make significant changes to the way our lives, the environment is threatened to the point it could threaten human existence. We hear that day in, day out. You've got the next summit coming. All of these things are weighing heavy on us, and there's other things as well. And I think probably we may not be aware of it, but we're suffering from a level of anxiety. You may not feel the anxiety, but when you get up in the morning, you're aware of these things threatening us. So it's in that context that I want to talk about our identity and the fact that God loves us. This is a true story. My cousin and her husband, they've moved on to different jobs, but and this is only 15, 20 years ago. My cousin, she was the cook for Princess Alice, and her husband was the butler. And that is, I'm not lying, I'm not making that up. And Princess Alice at the time lived somewhere in Northamptonshire. And we went over, Anne and I with the children, went over to spend the day with my cousin and her husband at Princess Alice's home. I can't remember exactly. Do you remember where it was, Anne? No, it's gone. And I remember walking through these gardens, through immaculate gardens. It's not quite Buckingham Palace, but it's not far off. Okay, walking through the gardens, and my cousin's husband, I'm not going to tell you their names, but he said, oh, there's Princess Alice over there. My heart started racing, because in my mind, I said to him, what do I say to her? What do I do? Do I curtsy? Do I bow? I'd lost all, I didn't know what to do. And I saw she was coming over to us. And I can still remember the sheer panic, because I didn't know how to address, how to greet, what to say to a member of the royal family. And she came over, she was delightful. She was in her 80s or 90s. I think she's died since. And she shook us by the hand, she chatted to us, and it was all very normal. But I was so anxious about being in front of a member of the royal family. That verse says, "Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence." Confidence. How on earth can we approach God's throne with confidence? I'm taken back to Esther chapter 4 verse 11. It's not on the screen, Susan, don't worry. But this is where Esther has been, she's the queen to King Xerxes. And if you remember, Mordecai, a member of her family, a Jew, and Esther is a Jew. And suddenly there's a plot to overthrow all the Jews, to get rid of them, to exterminate them. And the king has made this proclamation, etc. And it's looking very bleak for Mordecai and for Esther and for the whole of the Jewish people. And Mordecai comes to Esther and says, "You've got to go and see the king. You've got to persuade him that this is wrong." And Esther says, "How can I possibly do that? Anyone who comes to the king without being summoned, without being invited, is executed." Esther said, "I can't possibly do this." And Mordecai said, "We have no other choice." So Esther prays, she waits, she chooses the appropriate time. She goes into the king with fear and trembling, hoping that he's going to listen to her. And she's fortunate that he does. How can we approach the throne of grace with confidence? If that's what Esther was facing, if that's what I was fearing with Princess Alice. It is all about God's identity and your identity. Another thing, I maybe could have put this on the front here, but I wanted to actually have this on the flip chart. I hope you can read it. There are some things we need to try and get into our heads, that get from our heads into our heart, because then it really starts to go home, as it were. God is merciful, he is loving, he is gracious. We read all of those things in the Bible, but sometimes they just stay in our head and they don't get down into our very guts, into our soul. We are chosen, we are adopted, and we are loved. And probably for most of you, this is nothing new. You've heard this all before. And therefore, if God is loving, if he's merciful, if he's gracious, if we are chosen, adopted, and loved, therefore we are all sons and daughters, just like Jesus. You have all the blessings ready for you in heaven. You have them now as well, that Jesus has, because you are adopted as a son or daughter of God. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, "Yeah, that's fine, Phil, thank you. Yeah, that's great, that's great." But actually, has it really sunk down into your soul? Has it got down into the depths of your being? Because I think the trouble is, we have two problems with all of this. For a start, we may not believe that that's true. And secondly, we may think we may say, but Phil, you don't know what I've done. You don't know whether God would accept me. You don't know what I've done. We talk about communion and forgiveness, but you don't know what I've done. So we may disbelieve what God says about us, and we may think that we have just gone too far. I was looking in the paper yesterday. Do you remember the actor Neem Cusack? Yeah, you maybe remember. She was in Heartbeat, and Anne and I watched Heartbeat at the time, and we really liked this actress or actor. But I was reading some questions Q&A of Neem Cusack. Describe yourself in 3 words. Nearly good enough. Nearly good enough. How would you like to be remembered as good enough? Isn't that sad? And I suspect all of us are like that to some extent. What I want to do is I want to help us all to take something that we perhaps have heard that maybe is stored in our brain and to let it go down to our heart to make a real difference in our lives. And I'm going to use a song which I have fallen in love with. This was released back in March this year. And it's a group in America, Elevation Worship, Maverick City. I'm not sure quite what the 2 terms mean, but that's what they're called. And this song is called Jireh. Now, Jireh means provider, Jireh. It means provider. And this song has grown in popularity significantly. It's now had over 32 million hits. Probably 1 million of them are me, because I tend to listen to this every day. And I think for me, this will be the song of my life, as it were. This will be the song that I want remembered at my funeral, because it has been so significant to me. You don't need to read the words yet, don't worry. I'm going to ask us to listen to the song in a moment. Because of the fact we're going to play a recording of the song, unfortunately we won't be able to send this out on the stream. So the stream will pause it now for a moment and then we'll come back. But if you're listening on the stream now and you'd like to find this song, it's called Jireh, which is Jireh, and it's by Elevation Worship, Maverick City. And you can find the lyrics for this song on our website, on the church website. And I think Al is going to put the words down below this video as well. So I hope you'll be able to see it, but we'll join you on the stream in a moment. Welcome back to the stream. Hopefully you've managed to listen to that video, but I'm going to go through some of the words. And can I just explain why I'm using a song to help me with this? Because the Psalms in the middle of the Bible, they were written as poems or songs, and they were written as songs to be sung, to be remembered, to be recited, because what they did is they helped people to embed the faith, their beliefs in their head, embed them in their hearts and their soul. And that is exactly what this song has done for me. Would you follow me as I go back through some of the lyrics? The first verse says, "I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now." Going on to the chorus, which is at the bottom of that, the third, you got it the other way around. It's the third paragraph down. "You are Jireh." Jireh means provider. You are Jireh. You are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance because you are Jireh. You are enough. Flipping down, I'm not sure whether it's it's where we got to, which is I'm already loved, I'm already chosen. It may well be, it's halfway down the right-hand column, thank you, on the first side. I'm already loved. This is what we've spoken about this morning. I'm already chosen. I know who I am. I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I could imagine. And that is enough. That's a really important step. That is enough. That's all we need to know. That's all you and I need to know, that God chose you. He loves you and you're special to him. That is enough. Jump 2 paragraphs down. I want you to listen to this at home later. And that is enough. What his truth says is better than anything. That is enough. What he's declared over us, it's true. That is enough. That is enough. Jump 2 paragraphs down. This is the crucial bit in the whole song. If you notice where it says, "'Cause you are enough." Previously we've just sang, that is enough. God loves you, that is enough. "'Cause you are enough. You're my portion. You're my portion. More than enough for me." Say, you are enough, God. You are enough. And this is the crucial line. So I am enough. It's very subtle in the song. It changes. Suddenly you've been singing, that is enough, what God said. Then we sing, you are enough, Jehovah Jireh. You are enough. And then suddenly it jumps to, so I am enough. Next line, you are enough, so I am enough. Liam Cusack, she described herself in 3 words, not good enough, or 2 words, or 3 words, I am enough. How would you like to be remembered? I am enough. Now, without God, that's just arrogance. But if God is saying he loves you, he chose you, he adopted you as his son or daughter, that is enough for us. And because God is enough, therefore I am enough. I've gone through my whole life doubting myself, knowing my faults, my foibles, my weaknesses, my character flaws. And I've doubted myself all my life. And yet if I believe what God has said about me, and he's put me on this earth for a purpose, he's not just going to use me when I'm transformed, when I'm perfect. He's going to use me now. So if what God says is enough for me, and God is more than enough for me, then I am enough. And that is grace. That's about identity. So let's just, I can't remember what I wrote on the next sheet now. God loves you more than you'll ever believe. That is enough. God says, I am Jireh, your provider. You are enough. Therefore, I am enough. I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. I'm going to ask us to read that through in a moment, and for you to say the words in red, if you can see that is. How can we approach the throne of God with confidence? We can approach God's throne by listening to what he's said about us. You know, if Princess Alice had sent me a letter beforehand, before I was with my cousin and her husband in the garden there, if she'd sent me a letter, hi Phil, or dear Phil, my dearest Philip, okay, and she said, you know, your cousin, I'm not going to mention that, they've told me all about you, Phil. And she could have said all sorts of lovely things. I'm so looking forward to meeting you. Please don't be worried that I'm the member of the royal family. Treat me like meeting a friend. Can you imagine how that would have been different for me? I could have approached with a bit more confidence. But when we listen to what God has said about us, and we recognize that God is enough, that actually we don't need to listen to anyone else except God, then I am enough. Shall we read this together? If you can see it, that is. If you can't, let's go for it. You read out in red, please, when we come to it. God loves you more than you'll ever believe possible. That is enough. Let that sink in. God says, I am Jireh, your provider. You are enough, we reply to God. Therefore, I am enough. And the final statement, I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. I encourage you to listen to the song. It's I just love it. I was with Mark Mellish in London the other week. I go to see him once a term. And I said, have you heard the song Jireh? He said, yeah. He said, our band played it in church the other week. And we decided to look through the words and the lyrics on our team meeting at Monday morning, because we were a bit unsure of them because they're big statements. And he said, actually, we realised they're brilliant. I was really encouraged by that. My aim this morning was to help you to see that we can approach God with confidence, and to help you to get it from here down to here. And I think this is life-changing stuff. And I think if we can get it into our souls, into our spirits, into our hearts, then we will be brought on in our faith, and we'll be able to see others, we'll be able to brought one to Jesus. You know, if you're not sure what I mean by brought on and brought one, it's a play on Broughton, if you haven't already thought of that and remembered it. Let's just sit for a moment and just reflect on that.